Let's cheers.
Cheers. Sure. Cheers.
Cheers. I feel very special that I'm having wine.
Really are. Are you a big whiskey drinker, June?
I can't say that I am. I mean, I'm a alcohol drinker. So. It sounded like he was going to say I'm an alcoholic, but
That's the best kind.
Yeah.
That's the best kind.
Well,
That's the best kind.
isn't there a stereotype of like chefs and cooks are like alcoholics or like they love alcohol?
Yeah. I mean, there is that stereotype. I mean, I do drink. I don't smoke, right? And I don't do any other recreational, drugs or anything like that.
Well, of my short period in like the kitchen scene, right?
Yeah.
Because I used to be a cook in LA. You seem like the most put together guy.
Thank you.
Because it didn't start as a chef. That's the thing.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because all the chefs I know, like they've been cooking for decades, right?
Yeah.
And they're crazy. They're just crazy people.
There's an aura to them. Like
There's an aura.
Generalizing, of course, but
Obviously it's a stereotype, but in my experience, the stereotype has more often than not proven to be true. And that's in America, so I take it with a grain of salt. But a lot of them have their own ways of coping with the stress and the headaches of, obviously you guys would know better than anybody, of operating a restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the main thing. It's the stress, because you rarely have any occupation where everyone just comes in at exactly the same time. Like at lunch, everyone comes in. Everything's full and everyone's putting their orders in the same time. And then, of course, they're in a rush to get back to work. So that's really where the stress level comes in, right? And then, of course, you have your customers that have their own special dietary needs. And, of course, you have to cater to that. I was like, you come to a restaurant, I'm like, I can't do vegan this or vegetarian that. So you get frustrated when you encounter these kind of customers as well. And, of course, long hours. And you're there in the restaurant early in the morning and you leave late at night. So all of that kind of adds up. And of course, you find ways to cope with all that stress, to relieve some of that stress. And of course, the easiest thing is through alcohol, smoking, or other methods. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the cliche, right, with F&B is like you said, like the long hours. Like you basically have to live and breathe it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that might not be as much of a popular cliche that makes running an F&B business so stressful?
I have to say HR is probably one of the biggest headaches.
You mean HR isn't the fun part?
We've had our share of bad employees as well, and I'm sure we'll share that later on.
We'll have a few more drinks.
And then just keeping employees. In China, like it's so easy for people to say, "Oh, I want to go." 回老家, and then it's like all of a sudden they're gone, and the next thing you know, you're shorthanded, and then especially Chinese New Year time, everyone leaves, and then we're completely understaffed. So yes, this part, the admin part, the finance part, looking at cost, and realizing that okay, you're selling a dish for 60 kwai, but at the margin's that little, you have to pay suppliers, you have to pay your staff, rent, and so all these like things kind of add up, and then that 60 kwai dish, you're probably just profiting a few kwais off of that.
That's annoying.
And people don't even think about that, right? They look at it like 60 kwai for this.
I can't go to this wet market and just get the groceries. They often things like that, and I really, really don't appreciate it. Right? The fact is, like when you're running a restaurant, there's like 每一分钱都是很重要.
Yeah.
Then you feel like you 自己很斤斤计较, right?
Yeah.
But you like us, we have a lot of friends coming to our restaurant. Do you always want to give them discounts, say for example, or give them free dishes? Like as a business owner, you have to be responsible to your employees as well. But like, at the same time, you want to be generous to your friends. So there is like a big balance that you have to strike.
Yeah. From what I hear, like the margins are actually very small, right, in the F&B industry.
Yeah.
And I think over the recent years, food and beverage and cooking, the culinary arts has been like really glamorized in the media. But I think like me, in my experience, I jumped into culinary school because I felt like, oh, I love to cook, right? Like it's so fun just to cook, and the creative part of it is so appealing. But then when I got into culinary school, and then when I graduated and started working in the real kitchens, you realize, oh, wait a minute, like enjoying cooking and being really in the business is completely two different things. And it almost always, like, until you get to a certain point, it really doesn't even matter if you like to cook or not. You just have to be a soldier in that kitchen. And that was a part of it that kind of like my innocence kind of died a little bit, right?
That's when you start drinking and smoking.
Or I saw like the dark side of it all, right? And then it just opened up my eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, this probably isn't for me.
Yeah.
Where are you guys from, by the way?
Oh, okay. So I was born in Guangzhou. That's where my mom's from.
Okay.
And I was raised in Hong Kong.
Okay.
But then we moved here 7 years ago.
Yeah, in 2014.
So you went through the Priscilla. You went through the Hong Kong educational system.
Yes, I did.
International school or like?
No, it's in. It's a shame to say that we call it elite freaking school.
You can say it. It's an elite all-girls school. Yeah.
All girls school.
Of course, Hong Kong calls themselves the elite school.
There's like different names for there. Every time I said it, it's like really weird.
Okay, so you're an elitist. I get it.
You think you're better than everybody. Okay, we understand.
We also need to establish that they are a couple. They are married. And not only married, but also business partners.
Yes.
Which I would love to talk about later. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was born in Guangzhou, moved to LA when I was very young, like around 5 years old, and then moved to Hong Kong.
Because he broke up with his ex-girlfriend.
Okay, fine. Okay,
the
gloves come off.
I hear some bitterness in that.
That was strong bitter melon over there.
No, yes, I mean, okay, yes,
Cool.
I did break up from like a 5-year relationship, and then decided that, okay, I wanted some change. I've been in California for a large part of my life, and I want to try something else, live somewhere else. I mean, Asia seemed like the next best thing. I didn't want to be like in South America or Europe or any places like that, and that's basically how I decided. Okay, let's pack my bags. Say bye to my friends and family. And that's it. I just dropped everything and then moved over to Hong Kong.
Where was your family? Were they?
They're still in LA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you literally said bye-bye.
Exactly. I mean, looking back now, it was kind of, I can see that my parents were kind of crushed or kind of hurt, because they did everything for me to bring us over to the States. And then all of a sudden I'm coming over. It was like, why the fuck did you come over?
Like we did all that for nothing.
Exactly, right? I mean, I met her. We got along very well, and then we realized we both love to cook, and then we started a private kitchen together in Hong Kong. And then one of like a VP of a hotel chain tried our food and he loved it, and he
Just
asked,
by chance at your
yeah,
private kitchen.
exactly. And then so he came over, loved it, and he asked, hey, do you guys want to come to Shanghai? We have a venue set up. It's a Western restaurant, but there's no chef, there's no one managing the space. So we always want to open a restaurant, but of course in Hong Kong the rent is ridiculous, and so we decided that we give it a chance. We dropped everything that we were doing.
Wow.
And then packed our bags and came up to Shanghai, and that was like 2014.
Okay, really quickly, going on to the private kitchen thing, can you just really briefly explain what a private kitchen concept is for people that may not know?
Quite simply, it's you're opening your own home. At least for us, we did it in our own home, and we have a set menu. And then we just promoted it online and through friends and family. Basically, they would come over to our house, and we would just throw a dinner for them, based on tonight's menu. Right? I mean, I guess that's the simplest thing.
No, basically, right?
I was going to say it's an illegal establishment.
Well, yeah, because there's no license.
It's a black market restaurant.
I thought she was going to say it is an elite dinner.
But it's basically like a black market. Wait, so is it technically illegal? Or did
Yeah.
you guys have to get like permits for that?
We didn't have a permit. Yeah, we didn't have a
Wow.
permit
Okay.
for
So
that.
you guys were like real private kitchen, like
Yeah.
authentic private kitchen, private kitchen.
Yeah.
So I always had this theory, right? Because I have a fantasy of starting my own private kitchen because I just, for some reason, being outside of the industry, and you guys tell me, but I have this theory of like a private kitchen is perfect for somebody like me who might really enjoy cooking, has some training and background in that, but doesn't want to go full kind of F&B, right? And kind of private kitchen is like that perfect concept where you can kind of be in that gray area.
Yeah.
and enjoy kind of like have your cake and eat it too, basically.
I mean,
is that true?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot in Shanghai actually. We've been to quite a few. You know, there are Japanese restaurants that I can't call them restaurants, but Japanese private kitchens that do that. Shanghainese, Sichuan, and I think that is a great point too. Is that you're not fully committed into this thing. You can just do it like once a week. You know, every Friday night, for example. Or there are some people who are actually, you know, turn this into a small business. They do it, you know, every night as well. You know, so but without the hassle of, again, like worrying about staff, right? Worrying about you know, if the FDA is going to come in and check your expired food.
Well, you're kind of doing it on your own terms, right?
Exactly.
Is it, in your experience, was a private kitchen profitable at all?
Yes, absolutely.
It was sustainable?
I mean, because your overhead's pretty low, right? I mean, your rent is already taken care of because you're living in that same space, right? So you don't have to pay extra rent for a different space. You're utilizing the same space. And then food cost-wise, you already know, like, okay, because a lot of these are reservations, right? They would call in advance. There's no walk-ins. So you know that tonight there's 10 people. So you're making 10, maybe 11 people's portion just in case. And so your food cost is well under control, right? And then in terms of staff, I mean, it's you, your wife, or your family, or whoever, your ai can come in and help, right? So everything is well managed and low overhead. So yes, and people are willing to pay a pretty penny for this experience.
But yeah, there is that certain novelty to it where it's like kind of like, oh, you're in the know for a lot of these places because they don't publicly advertise a lot of them. So it's like, oh, I'm in the know. So you feel special going there. It's almost like the equivalent of like a speakeasy bar. That's kind of like, you know, those hidden passageways. You had to have a code to get in. You know, it's the same kind of feeling, I guess. Last thing about the private kitchen. I swear.
You sound like you want to you want to convert this room into a dining.
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious.
Instead of drinking, you eat.
Was it? No, but going back to the whole thing, because I just find it interesting because I have this like whole like narrative painted in my head and visualizing you guys doing this. Did you guys have to like purposely try to keep it really hush hush? Was there any fear of like, I don't know, like a raid or something like that? Or is that kind of just over exaggerating the situation?
Well, at least for me, that never crossed my mind.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know like how the Hong Kong
ago.
rules, like if they ever crack down on these kind of things.
I think when we started, it was a long time ago. It was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 9 years ago. So private kitchen just started, and everybody thought that it's something trendy. Nobody was trying to.
It was still kind of
shut it
fresh and
down.
new.
Yeah,
right?
it's very fresh. Now I think it's a little bit more mature. A lot of the private kitchens have turned into a proper restaurant in Hong Kong. There are not as many anymore in Hong Kong. I'm not quite sure about here. There's still, restaurants.
Here there's a lot.
I think they probably just call it private kitchen if you have like low seating, right? You don't have like a high number of tables, right? And you have like reservation based and you're a little more premium.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing is there's no license. I think that's the main thing why they call it private kitchen, because either that location itself, it's not fit to have a restaurant, so they can't get a license. So that's the only way that they can call themselves a private kitchen or get a kind of loophole around it. But of course, the thing is you cannot promote yourself as a business.
You can't find them on 大众点评.
Yeah, of course not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you guys were one of the OG private kitchens, because to my understanding, the concept of a private kitchen has also kind of evolved over the years, where now a lot of people adopt a private kitchen concept, but it's like fully legal. It's an F&B. It's like, it's by the book, but they just do it like in an environment, in a space where they give you that private kitchen aura, that, that ganjue, right? But like what you guys did was like the real authentic OG private kitchen.
Yeah, we live there too.
Literally come to my home.
Come to my home. I'm gonna cook for you guys.
I'll cook for you, pay me, that's it.
I'm in my boxers while I cook.
Okay, well now I'm really interested because I want to get to Brut, but before we get to that, I want to start this whole narrative arc with you guys about from what I understand, from what Howie has told me, before the private kitchen thing, you guys weren't in F&B at all in any capacity. What were you guys doing before that?
Well, I guess I'll start. I mean, I had actually done quite a lot. From college, I actually studied botany, which is plant
Plants.
science. There you go.
That's the first person I've ever met that was a botanist.
That's probably the only person.
That's a whole different podcast we need to get going.
No, I mean, believe it or not, I actually enjoy nature. I love plants, and I actually wanted to get into food science, genetics, agriculture. And I guess that kind of relates back to being a chef now.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to chiropractic.
Yeah, flip it. Just flip it around right
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
180.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess the segue into chiropractic was I still wanted to be within science and health and whatnot. And so, I want to do something different. And my friend introduced me to chiropractic. And so I decided I'd try that. And then from there, I practiced for a bit. And then again, I realized this isn't for me. You can see where this is going. So I switched again.
And flip it again.
There you go.
But you did very well, though.
Yeah. I mean, all right.
So you actually practiced it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I got into finance. So I went into hedge funds.
So you were fixing too many backs, and you're like, I want to find the root of this.
Now I'm his only patient, by the way. Okay.
Nice.
No, so yeah, I went to stock trading, started on hedge fund and whatnot, and then from there, all right, so you know where this is going. So that's actually how I got into cooking. I mean, it's still something that I've always loved to do, even though I was doing a lot of different things. But cooking and being a host to a party, that's always something I love to do. And it wasn't until we met, and then we decided, hey, why don't we actually pursue this? And so I stopped trading. I gave that up, and then we put our focus into, okay, let's focus on how we can build a career in doing food.
I want to make a quick observation, and you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So just by what you were describing, from studying botany all the way to I mean everything in between, and then to investments, right? Stocks and trade. I mean, it seems like because each one it's not like you're sticking in arts. You're like, I'm a photographer, and then went to filmmaking, and then went to fine art, or
You're
whatever.
like 180 degree
You're
pivots.
180. You're just jumping around. But the thing is that I think that you're brave, right? To change, to be like, stop everything. This is not working out. I got to change this, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably an integral reason why you have found success right now, I think, is because you're constantly evolving and finding that voice of yours.
Yeah.
Right. And even though you're discovering new experiences or career paths, but you still were aware enough to be like, hold on, maybe I should stop right now and do something else,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's an awareness that not many people have, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, that's the
Thank
courage that not many people have. Like, and and honestly, are we all just gonna sit here and breeze over the fact that he just up and started his own hedge fund from being a chiropractor? I know. Like, I love how you just glossed over that. Like, that's nothing. Like, how do you go from being a chiropractor to be like, oh, and then I started my own hedge fund? Like, how does that transition even happen?
yeah.
That's actually a good point. I mean, geez, where did I even begin? I never thought myself as going into business. Business was never something that I thought I would enjoy. And so, but one of my friends that got me into stock trading, like, I love looking at charts, which is kind of explains why I love looking at maps. I love looking at diagrams. And so when I look at a stock chart, it kind of makes sense to me.
Wow.
Right. So you see all these ups and downs, these lines. I guess that's the nerdy part.
Like, that's like the Rain Man part of you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Look at numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of makes sense to me. And then you can see patterns off these charts. Right. And so, we started it with our own money. And of course, we started growing into, why don't we start investing for friends and family? Of course, that's where you start. And then we got some great results. And of course, that kind of snowballed into other people that we didn't know, of course. And then we started to pool money together. And that's basically how it happened.
Wow.
Okay, so going back to kind of the point that Howie was highlighting, I got to ask you, like, with all these pivots throughout your career path, were these products of situations you found yourself in? Or were these like kind of just proactive decisions you made just because you wanted to pivot?
Yeah, I think I think part of it is because I mean, to be honest, some of it was because I lost interest, right? I've thought that this is going to bring a certain result, or let's say a certain amount of joy, happiness. And I realized the actual result of this job or this career isn't exactly what I imagined it to be, right? And so that's why rather than pursuing and going out down this road, why don't we do something else, right? And so that's how I decided to make all these changes. And of course, I guess I should have done a bit more research into going into these careers.
Well, it seems to have worked out for you so far. So
I mean, instead of like, nah, fuck it, let's just do it. You know, kind of that spontaneous.
Shoot from the hip.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot first, ask.
Wow.
Well, what were you doing, Priscilla, at the time?
I was a recruiter. I was very specific in what I did. I was a finance HR recruiter. So,
like a headhunter?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But I started with more junior levels, and then I started doing more director level.
Wow.
So yeah,
And was that what you've always been doing after you graduated?
yeah. So I was very young when I met him. Actually, lucky you.
I was really only met.
I was
Cheers to that.
26.
The guys can cheers to that.
I was 26 when we were married. So we met when I was 24, 25, something like that. So I graduated
And just to throw it out there, we're actually 9 years apart.
Nice.
Wow.
We're
Yeah.
9 years apart. See, lucky you again.
Nice, Jen. Nice, Jen. Way to go. I'm winking at you. Nice.
Yes.
I know. So yeah. So
She regrets it now.
Yeah, she regrets it. The visual that comes to mind when I think of you two is
I was trying to recruit him or something.
No, but yeah, you remember like Thelma and Louise, that movie?
Uh-huh.
You might be too young for that.
Yes, I
But
loved
you
it.
remember
Yeah,
Thelma and
yes.
Louise, right? Where they're holding hands in the car and they drive off the
Yeah,
cliff together.
yeah.
So that's kind of how I picture like your joint decision to be like, okay, hey, why don't we just start a kitchen, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just you two jumping into it.
Yeah.
And obviously there's so many layers that we can get into between the pros and cons of working together as business partners, being a couple, right? I'm sure it's a very nuanced layer in there. But also just the willingness to jump off that cliff and have that faith.
Yeah.
Right? Like what can you, from the outside, because, I'm meeting you guys today for the first time, but it just feels like that barrier to make that jump is just lower for you guys. Like you guys are somehow intrinsically maybe more emotionally tailored to do that. Whereas I feel for a lot of people, that barrier is very high. It's like, oh my God, how can I ever jump? I can never imagine myself doing that.
Let alone together, like we're both jumping.
So exactly. That's a good point, because usually within a relationship, it'll be like, okay, well, you keep your job so we know that's a safety net because we'll have that income, and let me make the jump. And it's like one person take the risk and one person be that anchor, right? But like you both are just jumping into the abyss. So is there anything, I guess, you can say that somebody can learn from, that I could learn from, that how do you get over that barrier? How do you get over and just like make those scary decisions?
Sure. I mean, I guess I can speak for myself. I mean, because I've done quite a lot already, that I've developed this philosophy of no regrets. I think I really do believe everything happens for a reason. And I don't think that there's such a thing as like mistakes. I mean, you learn from them. And I think like, okay, there's a certain path you take. Like had I not gone through chiropractic school, I wouldn't have met a friend who introduced me to do stocks. And if I didn't do stocks, then I probably wouldn't have met a friend who also eventually would be the same friend that I moved to Hong Kong with, right? And so if I didn't move to Hong Kong, then of course I wouldn't have met Priscilla, all right? So I feel like there's this path that, okay, it doesn't matter like how dreadful or how scary it might look right now to change career or to move to a new place, but eventually I feel like it will work out, right? And I feel like, okay, even if I start a new career, it doesn't matter how old I am, we're in 20s, 30s, 40s, that I feel I'm still capable mentally, emotionally, physically, still start from scratch, right? I don't feel like I'm at that stage where I can't start anything anymore. So I feel like, okay, even if when I get to my 60s and if we want to pivot again, hopefully not, that, okay, you know, I feel like we can do that. And I think it takes a lot of emotional stability to do that, because there's a lot of this unknown certainty.
Yeah.
And I guess Priscilla can feel in that part, because I guess she doesn't like instability. You know, and so for me,
Oh, you picked the wrong guy.
Yeah, I know.
I
Right?
know. Like,
That's why
the
I'm
total
stabilizing him now. Okay.
you know, like for me,
It's
I was
the opposite.
I was very spontaneous before. It's
Yeah.
like whatever I want to do, I just want to do it, right? And so regardless of the consequences, and so that's why I kind of jumped around a bit, and then I really think that, okay, you just got to be a little bit fearless in that, and really just look forward and say that, okay, if it doesn't work out, there's something else you can always do. You know, if you're, I guess if you have the mental capacity to say, you know, I'm smart enough, you know, I'm brave enough to do it, right, and not be down on yourself and say, oh, I'm too stupid, or I don't know how to do this. You know, I think there's always something that you can find you can do. Yeah,
I think you put that so well. And I mean, besides what you just said, I mean, also the biggest thing that I feel like you probably have that some other people may not have balls the size of this, because because to put it eloquently, right?
that would be unhealthy.
Because look, I mean, you kind of have to have no fear, right? Because the minute you start having fear is the minute you start having self-doubt.
Yeah.
And this minute you start having self-doubt, I mean, that's this trail of tears that you're going to go down that may not ever bring you to where you should be, or maybe you want to be. So I think that's one of what you said was beautiful. And if anything, it's really hitting home to me and inspiring me right now. Because I'm in a place right now where I'm just like, I want to keep going forward with my career, you know what I mean? But then there's always that something that's blocking me. And just hearing you just being like, well, what do you got to be afraid of? Everything's connected. Everything's, you know, you're going to be where you're going to be, right? I feel like I find comfort in hearing that.
Well, June, if you don't mind, can I ask what age range you're in now? Are you in your 40s?
I am actually.
You're in your 40s, okay.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of roughly in the same general generation.
I'm younger.
Well, obviously, okay, obviously, no, I'm saying we
You're
all
obviously
as in the
18,
guys.
I get
Yeah.
42 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something that you said that really struck me, and I'm curious about, is that, if I'm not mistaken, you said that even now, and even let's say when you're
60,
older, in your 60s, like you still would just believe and have that faith that, like, okay, well, if I were to start over, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
And I could just start over and do something else.
Yeah.
That amazes me, because I feel like for me and Howie, because we've had off-air talks about this where, you know, like maybe like when we were 20s and our early 30s, we would feel that way too. But as we get older and as the perceived stakes get higher, so to speak, we feel like that's less and less a risk we're willing to tolerate, in the sense that, like, if I'm 40 now and all these young bucks, right? All these young kids are coming up and they're killing it out there. Like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to be left behind. Like, what can I do? What skill set do I really have to really start over and completely just do something else? Like, so is there a part of you, like, do you just 100% believe that you can just do whatever? Is there something from your experience that makes you believe that way? Is that something you've always had? Or is it a little bit delusional?
I guess,
but like the good kind of delusion, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, I've always been self-taught, you know, and I feel like I have that that drive, that strive to, okay, if there's something I don't know, then I'll learn, right? You know, even stock trading, that was all self-taught, right? Cooking, I mean, to be honest, that was also self-taught. And then, like, even recently, we started an ice cream shop together, like making ice cream swirls. That, I mean, I taught myself to make ice cream.
Really? Delicious.
Yes. Thank you.
Love it. I've been there many times already.
I gotta try it. I love ice cream.
Yeah. So I feel like there's nothing. I mean, I can't say there's nothing, but I feel like there's majority of stuff that, okay, if there information's out there, I can go and research and learn it. Right. It's only if there's no information, I don't have resources, then maybe I can feel, okay, I'm limited to what I can learn. But I feel like during now, like with the internet, and
especially today, right? In
exactly. You can learn anything on YouTube or whatever, books, and even finding mentors. And I feel like, okay, if you take the time and that effort to learn, all right, and just focus completely on it, then you can be anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds cliche, but yes,
It's the truth.
No, it's definitely the truth, and this is something we've talked about on the show in our earlier episodes, and it was inspired from actually an interview I saw of Steve Jobs. We call him Stephen Jobs.
Steven, like you guys are like going way back.
Like I know him. But it's precisely kind of, it hits back on what you're saying, is that like we grow up and many of us feel we are living in this world that's like built by giants. And the world around us are created by these gods, these giants, these bigger than life people that we can never strive to be. Like, oh my God, we can't do that. Like I have my role in life here and my place, and I can't go do those things. You know, the world around us is built by these giants. But it's not true. And it's that the world around us are built by people just like you and me.
Yeah.
And just having that faith in that in yourself, that you can learn and you can learn new things, and your ability to adapt is all it takes for you to start something new.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And it's that myth that like the world is around us is built by people that are just so much smarter than we are, so much better than we are. And that's really just a myth.
Yeah.
It's a myth just to keep us all in line, I guess.
That's something that I realized growing up now. It's more than just education level or intelligence that would bring you success. It's the mentality that you have. And what amazes me, honestly, truly, is that he is so genuine in the way that even I would believe that. He truly believes that when he's 60, if he wants to change career again, he would be able to do that. Even he makes people believe in that because he just has a lot of faith in himself. And I guess that's the reason why we're so compatible as well. Growing up in Hong Kong, there are a lot of constraints, right? I mean, we live in a very small city. Yes, it's cosmopolitan. It's like an international city, but you see a lot of competition, right? One thing that I'm very grateful for is that my parents have been very supportive. Although I like stability in some way, I'm also very spontaneous, or else I wouldn't just quit my job and do this together as well. But the fact that I would balance things first, I would evaluate the situation first before something actually just make us a better couple, I suppose.
Well, and actually, I learned quite a lot from that too. You know, instead of diving in head first, but maybe evaluating whether there's alligators in the water before diving in.
Have you got bitten a few times?
Yeah, exactly. You know, so yes, I mean, I guess that's where we balance off each other. She's not saying she's not spontaneous, but at least she's more careful in terms of evaluating the situation first. And if everything's clear, then okay, let's just go for it, right? Whereas me, before, I would just go for it regardless of what or where it is.
Well, you need someone like her in your life because you guys complement each other well.
Yeah. Like talking about the fear, right? I was talking to a friend when we first opened Swirls, which was a little bit more than a month ago. The husband of my other founder. So there were 3 founders for Brut Eatery. So we founded that together. Nicole Tang is an interior designer as well as a furniture designer. And then her husband came over and said, like, you know what, this is amazing. You have been doing Brut for 5 years now, and it's going so well. Like, wow, I'm so impressed. And when you guys first started, I was very hesitant. I was so worried for Nicole because she didn't have any experience in this at all. You know, like, I was worried for her. And then I realized at that particular moment, I never had the fear that we would fail. It just never crossed my mind.
Failure never crossed your mind?
Never with Brut. We were just going ahead like, hey, this is something that we really wanted to do. We'll be there 24/7 if we need to be. And as a matter of fact, we would work from 7 until 11 every day for the first 6 to 9 months. That's like how we did it. We were sick and then he would be sleeping in the attic. That's how we did it. So like it just never crossed our mind that Brut would fail. Whereas honestly, right now, 5 years later, now we have Brut. We have a lot, you know,
you have
few
like
more shops.
8 restaurants?
Yes, we have 8 open right now. We're still building 1 to 2 more.
This year.
Of course, we have investors and things like that. But now we started Swirls together. It would actually cross my mind. What if? Like I have.
What changed?
I guess it's experience, right? When we started Brut, the market probably first was not as complicated as now. Rent is not as high. I could do that or everything. Honestly, if you ask me to do that all over again from 7 to 11, would you do that? You know, like I've grown and I would feel like I should delegate my time better than just staying at the shop all the time as well. I'm a human being. And so I would think like I should probably train my staff to be doing that so that probably I can think about the strategy. The market has also changed a lot. The market has also moved forward. Can I actually just simply give you good service and good product and people would come? No. It's so different now. I was just saying like, oh my God, I really need to move on because back then with Brut, in the first few months, people were flocking in and would say like, can I film at your place? Can I take a lot of photos? Can I write about you guys? Sometimes we have to turn them down because we're just way too packed. And back then, 大众点评 just started as well. And everybody wanted to be like level 2, 3, you know, they were at most at level 2. So they needed that. They needed to write more. Now they're a lot more level 8. And all they do is criticize people. Because if they write a review like 5 stars, there's a possibility of being blocked. Because there is a possibility that would suspect you that it's a commercial. It's a commercial. It's a paid ad. So you can't do that anymore. It's gotten so much more complicated. I can't just stay at the shop and smile at people and serve people good food anymore. I need to like spend time on my own with him and to talk about marketing strategies. So it's very different.
Well, and that and the products have changed. You know, it's becoming more and more Wanghong. You know,
100%.
Yeah. I mean, before when we started Brut, it was very, you know, it's the dishes are more simple. But now you got to make sure. Of course, I mean, it's global, right? It's got to be Instagrammable. It's got to be photogenic, right? I mean,
it's got to have a catch.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, just giving them even at Swirls a simple ice cream, that's not catchy enough. It's not. It doesn't look photogenic. They're not going to take a photo. And so you got to think about, okay, other than it being tasting good,
you need to put like firecrackers in there.
Exactly.
We just put sprinkles now and people are taking photos now.
You put a car tire on there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, go outside the box.
Exactly.
But I'd be very interested in getting your perspectives on this within the industry, because this is how I see it. And to your point, Priscilla, yeah, I think it's not that simple anymore where you can just provide a good product, a good service, and be like, okay, well, if I do those things, then I can be successful. Because I have seen many, in my opinion, restaurants that I felt were great food. The service was good enough, you know, and everything about it I enjoyed, and they closed down. And then I see a lot of these restaurants that are these Wanghong restaurants where people lined out the door waiting for hours to get in, and there's so much hype. I go and try them, and I'm so disappointed. It's like so not worth it. So I just feel like, what is your perspective on this in terms of like this shift? And is this shift even real? Like, is what I'm saying accurate from your perspective? And if it is, like, how do you guys deal with that?
Well, it's real. It's really real. And we share the same experience with you, even as customers ourselves. Like we see these people line up, like go to these Wanghong shops. People, and then we try it. Yeah, I mean the food is shitty. Right, service is crap, right? But people line up, you know. And I think a lot of it is just really that culture of being there, taking photos, right? Making sure that okay, they get enough followers too. And I think the thing is like with these people that they try to make a living off of this, because I mean it's a kind of ludicrous business to be these Wanghong KOLs, you know. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, like the sponsorships and advertisements and whatnot. And so everyone wants to do that. And it's an easy job. You're just sitting there pretending to look pretty, right? I mean, you don't have to be behind a desk or behind a kitchen or doing real physical work, which I kind of feel like it's kind of, you know, it's drifting, you know, it's shifting now in our industry that people want to make money easy and to take the shortcut. And so because of that, like you get these people who are just going in, you know, to Dakar, you know, to check in, to write the review, and basically just going to the next best thing,
Yeah.
you know, and they're just doing that.
And it's fleeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, do you feel it's sustainable, or do you feel like
You
it's
don't
just a
need to
bubble?
be sustainable. That's the thing. That's what we realized when we first started Brut. Say, for example, we knew that we wanted to open a few more shops. We knew that we want to be around for longer, but then we realized first is rent. Like whether your landlord would allow you to be there for long, they usually just sign 2 to 3 years, at most 5 years, right? If it's like a less, a worse like location, then you can sign for a longer lease. Do people want you around as well? That's another thing. There are a lot of new restaurants opening every day. They are going to Dhaka everywhere. Unless there's something so special about you that they would want to come back and come back and come back. There's no way or no reason for you to be there
Again.
to be sustainable, right? In a way. I think we're very lucky with Brut that we're still around, but we have evolved so much. We started
Yes, you guys are constantly evolving. Yeah, right?
Absolutely. We started more as a brunch, simple lunch place with coffee. And now look at us. We're a wine bistro with a menu like a encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So it's very different right now because we have to adapt. Once you have stepped out of your comfort zone, so to say, your French concession or whatever, you have to look at the other regions and say like, hey, I can't just do fusion things. I probably need comfort food. I need probably carbonara in my dish because people know about it. We used to serve hand cut fries. We cut them, triple
cooked, yeah.
triple cooked fries. So much work. Do people really appreciate it? Probably very, very little people.
Those are delicious, though.
I know.
They were so good.
I know they were so good, but
They're
to be honest,
gone.
they're gone because people just don't appreciate it as much because they see it as
Yeah.
brown. Of course, it would be browner,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's triple cooked,
So
but they're
delicious.
so nice. But now people prefer, the usual fries, and they're happy about it. So why bother to a certain extent?
They just want it to look pretty, right?
Yes, and I mean they taste good still, but is it as good as the other one? And then you will have to strike a balance between business and your own ideals, right? This is what we want, but is that what people want, or 80% of the people want? And I have a lot of people to feed. I have to make my business still alive, running.
I feel like it's almost like, I mean, as an outsider, I'm not anywhere near F&B, but I feel like if I were to put my foot into the game, based off of this conversation we're having right now, one of the things that I would put into my business plan would be how do I renovate and update my whole concept every 2 years or every 1 year or something like that. I actually had an idea a long time ago. I'll just say it off the cuff that it was going to be like like I was going to design into the space like panels that can flip or something like that, that all of a sudden the place looks different based off of a season, and then the menu would change based off of the season, but it's still the same restaurant. So that way you're always fresh. People always got to come back to take the new photos. 'Cause otherwise, why would you come back to the restaurant?
If your restaurant was a transformer,
Yeah, literally. Like you have to like go with the times, guys.
Yeah.
It's got to be a transformer, right?
That's why a lot of shops are doing collaborations
Yeah.
with other brands. That's what we want to do.
All right, guys.
as well.
I just gave you a gem. Take it.
yeah, just take it. All right, they're gonna go far with that one.
Okay, Transformer restaurant. Got it.
Well, so this conversation kind of boils down to a lot of things in that what do you guys feel about this, in the sense that do you feel a lot of restaurants now, let's say in Shanghai, are just putting more investment and focusing more on, let's say, the decor, the presentations, the atmosphere?
Yeah, what's the ratio?
Versus like actually making good food?
Wow.
I mean,
That's a good question.
The actual ratio, I don't know, but I do agree that yes, a lot of restaurants now are more towards decoration, presentation, plating, like having spots in the restaurant where it's photogenic, right? More than actually serving good food. Because you have to realize at the end of the day, the people who are actually coming to Dhaka, they're not food critics. They're not people who really know about food. They're just, people who I don't know, just
They're
decide.
soulless, superficial beings.
Exactly.
Wait, what is? I
sorry,
know
I
I know
hate
what
this.
Dhaka is, but what is it in the
Like chickens.
context of?
Chickens.
Yeah, basically check-ins. Like you come in, you say you've been to this place. So
just for the social media post.
You literally say with Dakar, like I'm here, like
I'm here, I've been here, I was
it's a pop
here,
culture
kind of
reference,
thing.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so once you're here, people know you've been here, you're cool, whatever, and then
You're so cool.
You can move on to the next spot, right?
Yeah.
The next best thing. But again, like these people, they don't know anything about food, right? They don't know what goes into making a dish. And so for a lot of them, they're just like writing nonsense. This tastes good, this tastes great, whatever. So what can they base it on? Just how it looks, right? I mean, that's the only thing they can describe. They can't describe how the sauce is, takes 10 hours to boil down and to make.
Nor would they care.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Well, it's a form of tourism, really. Just like how if we were to visit a new country, we would just go to all the major sites.
Yeah.
And maybe we wouldn't know anything historically about the sites, but we would go to take the pictures just to show that we've been to the sites. We've been to the Eiffel Tower, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I think their mentality with restaurants in the culinary world is like, very similar to that. So it's a form of tourism.
But as a matter of fact, we do need these kind of people, don't know?
Yeah.
I mean, it is like that. It is the way it is. So we just have to accept it. I have kind of changed my mentality already because part of me, when we first started Swirl, say, for example, our slogan still, it's...
What's your slogan for Swirls? Let's hear it.
you say it. Because you name it.
It's real milk, real fruit, real good.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So we focus so much on the ingredients, the quality of ingredients, right? Do people really care? Honestly, no.
I don't know, do they?
They
Right.
don't.
think
They
Why
don't.
don't you
Yeah.
change? Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Let's update this. Ready? Swirls. Looks damn good on a photo.
Oh, yeah, just get to the point.
Right.
Get to the point.
Get to the point.
You're gonna get lined up out the door.
I mean, there are like just a very small handful of
Very
people
small.
who can recognize good ice cream
Yeah.
versus the McDonald's one.
But they don't write Dianping. That's the thing.
I
They
know.
don't write a review.
those who write Dianping are the ones that says this is no different than McDonald's ice cream,
Jesus.
you know?
Yes.
So those are the people that don't know any better.
That's heartbreaking.
So,
isn't
that,
it?
so you've
Absolutely.
gotten those, that's like a dagger to the heart, right?
Oh,
No,
of course.
I think it's better for me now. I used to take it very personally.
I still take
was
it
like,
personally.
"What?" I was like, yeah, but now I like to take it in a humorous way. I would reply them. Say for example, there were one customer said like, oh, this is the same as McDonald's. And what I wrote, it's like, 天地很大，能容四方口味。我们跟 McDonald's 一起和平共存。Yeah, I mean, it's okay. There are different types of levels of customers, If you don't appreciate us, it's totally fine as well. McDonald's, it's a big corporate. They have their own success.
As long as you're
I
not
love
being
how you
like-
frame it. I
reasons
love how you're
why.
framing it. Like, well, if you're mentioning us with the most successful food company in the
Right?
history of the world,
Yeah.
then that's a pretty good thing.
It's okay. I mean,
good
if you're
comparison, yeah.
like
The yin and
different
the yang.
edges.
As long as you're not being like 去死吧, like that's good. Yeah.
Because there are also actually some people who does that. If it's like one single shop, absolutely fine. But we have another brand which is still growing on
Yeah.
our shoulder. I can't do that.
gotta think about
yes,
that.
I'm gonna be like, behind the scene talking about them, bitching about them. But I can't do it right now. I can't do it on a public platform.
Well, you have
Especially-
the PR too.
Well,
to-
especially the Chinese netizens, you got to be careful.
Oh, absolutely.
Because cancel culture is for real here too. And I mean, you see this happening all the time. Where online you see people in droves.
yeah.
You say the wrong thing, they jump on you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's like I literally I envision like a zombie apocalypse of like a horde of zombies jumping on me. You know what I mean? It's like that's what they do.
Well, we've seen it happen to one of our dear friends. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
really? How?
What, you mean zombies?
Just something bad happening and online having a bad response to it, and no matter what you say or what you do, it just compounds and compounds and compounds.
They're not forgiving.
And they're not forgiving. And all of a sudden, like all these other ulterior like motives and storylines start coming in that have nothing to do with what it is, but it serves their agenda. It's just really bad.
Yeah. This is also a very universal thing, I feel like, when it comes to, how do I put this? I guess people who have grown up with a Western cultural background, starting a business in China. Because Howie and I, we used to run our own fashion brand here. And we went through very similar kind of conflicts within ourselves, which is the balance of I have my own taste and aesthetics and principles that I want to adhere to because this is what I believe is the best.
Right.
Versus placating and compromising to what is in the best commercial interest of the local consumer here. And that's always a battle. At least maybe not as much now because we've just lived here for so long and we've changed ourselves. But when we first got here, that was a big battle. And that's a battle that I have seen and heard time and time again from various people doing various businesses, is that like, this is the right way to do it. This is, this is an art. This is the thing. But I kind of have to compromise that so that it will sell better, and whether it's localizing the taste or the design. And that's, to me, is a very universal struggle, I guess.
It really is. It really is. I mean, we had the same struggle when we started our restaurant back in Qingpu. For me, the menu is like, I want to make this very American.
Pig's ears.
Right. Pig's ears and Brussels sprouts. This is like, 7 years ago when they didn't even know what that was.
Like a gastropub, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so, but it took a lot of fine tuning, a lot of learning to really find what's the taste that's acceptable here. Right. And I'm not saying like, you got to sell out completely. And I think this is something that I also learned from my wife, Priscilla, is that how do you balance that? Like, how do you still put a bit of your personality in there, but still maintain a business, right? Do you completely sell out and just sell whatever is in the mainstream? Like, for example, when we started Brut, like, I didn't want to do salads.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I don't eat salad, because
High five. High five, sir.
I knew Justin was going to come out with that. I knew.
Yes.
Because
salads are terrible.
I mean, because for a customer, like salads, it's a high margin.
Now, not anymore because you put meat on top of it.
I do, but I Brut, it's a great value. But anyway, like I didn't want to do salad, but she's like, okay, you don't have to do like a traditional conventional salad, but like,
not
why don't
Caesar salad?
Yeah, why don't you put a twist to it? Like make a sauce that's different, or put some different ingredients, but still call it a salad, right? So at least that people come in, they want some veggies, they can have that, right? But at the same time, if you put your own creative twist to it, you're not completely, you're not selling out in some way, right? And so that's really trying to balance that. I mean, it's still learning for me, like even now, where how do I balance this menu where it's not like, I just want to do whatever the fuck I want to do, but at the same time, will people understand it, right? I guess that's the main thing, is like, if I do something, will people understand it and appreciate it at the end of the day, or do they see this as just one confused dish that the chef decided to put random shit together?
What made you choose to find that balance as opposed to just fuck it, I'm gonna do what I want and I don't care about that?
Well, I think it's really about me. At the end of the day, it's still a business, right? You got to still pay your bills. You got to pay your staff. So yes, you can say just screw everything, I'm going to do what I do, but you will only, capture a small percentage of that, of the market. And is that enough to pay your bills? No, really. And so, okay, you can have maybe, at least from a F&B point of view, our menu, like a small portion, a third of it is, okay, very creative dishes, very unique dishes, but the other 2/3 you can cater to the mass market, right? So it's kind of balanced in that sense that the majority of the dishes that people are comfortable with, Caesar salads, right? Your bacon cream pastas, so on and so forth. And then there's a few items that are, okay, I have my safe dishes. Let's try something different.
Let's do something for me, right?
Exactly, right? And so that's in some ways how we try to find a strike a balance in terms of our menu design as well, right? Like we were talking earlier, like a lot of chefs want to be Western chefs because there's this stigma that Western chefs are cool, or whatnot. But
like the rock stars,
exactly,
are all like Western
right?
chefs, right?
Exactly. You want to play the guitar or strum the violin, kind of thing. But I feel like now, like, a lot of these Western chefs that did a lot of Western food before, they're going back to Chinese, like doing modern Chinese food, making sure that, we're representing modern Sichuan food, modern Cantonese food, so on and so forth. And you can start to see this movement towards that of okay, glamorizing Chinese food into more than just like everyday home cooked rustic food. And for us, we do greatly, immensely appreciate that, to put Chinese food in the forefront, that it can be fine and delicate, right? That you can sit through a 10-course menu, right? Instead of just like ordering 10 different plates and everyone just dig in kind of thing,
I have a very relevant example of this. Our dear friend Charles from Charlie's Burger.
Yes.
He's said to me on more than one occasion, because obviously he's known for Charlie's, which is an American burger chain here in China, and he had opened at least at the time it was 2 like Chinese restaurants. Maybe he has more now, and he was always saying like, oh man, like doing Chinese food is just so much easier here. He's like, burgers are just such a struggle, like you have to like burgers and American Western food in general. He's like, it's just such a struggle. He's like, once I open up my Chinese restaurants, I don't need to do any marketing. They just flock in. Yeah. He's always saying how much easier it is to do Chinese food. I wonder if that's true from your experience or what you see, and what the paradox is there, because obviously with Chinese food, you're facing much more competition now as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in China, of all places. So like, what is it really that easier, or is it just, I guess the market is just so much bigger?
Well, the market's bigger and the market's changing. But I do agree that if you do Chinese food, like if you do it in a modern way, there's always going to be skepticisms. There's going to be people who say, why am I paying twice or triple this amount where I can get somewhere else, for a much cheaper price? And I think because there's that base for comparison. And that's why like Western food is always much more expensive, because there's no base for that comparison, right? You can charge 80 kwai for a burger, right? But, when you charge like 60 kwai for let's say a noodle, like a glorified lanzhou lai mian, and then we can get it down the street for 10, 20 kwai, they can always make that comparison. Why am I paying more, for the same thing? Even though it looks prettier, but the taste is almost the same, right? And so that's why it's harder to do, in some ways, modern Cantonese or modern Chinese food in that sense, because everyone always has in the back of the mind that Chinese food should always be cheap, accessible, easy.
It's just very interesting to hear from you, Justin, that Charles actually said that it would be easier for him to do.
Well, in his experience, it was.
Yeah, because from our fellow entrepreneurs or restaurateurs, actually a lot of them mentioned that Western food in the industry is slightly easier.
Oh, really?
Than Chinese restaurants, because people know about Chinese food.
Yeah.
They know what they want. They know how it should taste like. So they have a certain expectation of what it is in terms of taste, in terms of pricing. So it's just a very different perspective, I would say, because we were actually thinking about the modern Cantonese bistro, and we felt like it would be a little harder. There was one that is trying to do it. I forgot its name, a wine bistro as well. And the people's expectation is like, okay, how is it modernized? Or is it actually fusion? When we talk about modernized, you have a modern take on it. But of course, you have different interpretations how you do it, right? But when you're talking about fusion, it's different cultures. And a lot of chefs, when they're doing it, it's tend to be fusion because they have a Western background. They're using Western techniques instead of coming from a Chinese culinary background where they, start from the chopping board to another, the cold station, and then the wok, one step after another. They're just plainly using Western techniques on Chinese ingredients or interpretation on that. So is it actually modernized when you think about it? Yes, you can say it's a way, but it's actually not exactly modernized. It's more fusion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe you can think of it from a perspective of, maybe it's hard to do it because people's expectations are that. But if you're not serving that, for example, lo mein, like lo mian, like cao mian, if you're not going to do a typical cao mian, the way that you go to ca tanting for cao mian, you don't present it that way, then they're not going to have that expectation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think. And as long as you create that premium way of serving it, whether it's the ingredients or, you know, the presentation. And then you have this beautiful atmosphere that makes it young, fresh, hip, loungy. You can have it. Like, why not, right?
You will also need probably a Lawai face, unfortunately.
But why? Really?
To sell it, you got to sell it.
Really?
You got to go
Just
that final
a
yard. You
cruel
got to go that
fact.
final
I
yard.
don't agree with that. Fuck that shit.
You kind of have to.
Well, I don't know from a cost perspective, because if we're talking about ambiance, decor, service, you guys would know better than anybody, but I would have to assume that would greatly inflate the costs as well as running.
It would be very expensive. Believe us.
But I mean, I feel like,
You
okay,
gotta have
if
the
you,
right
if,
location too.
it's kind of like if you have 干炒牛河, 光炒牛河, and you serve that on a minute. I mean, you can get that easily 30, 40 kwai somewhere. And then if you put like Wagyu beef all of a sudden in there, then you can charge 80 kwai for
Throw a
it.
truffle, because that's like the secret sauce.
That's really what you
But
do.
could you really charge 80 kwai? Because do people really appreciate the Wagyu? I think Wagyu is so
that's the thing. It's
taken
kinda,
for granted.
That's the thing. It's kind of like, okay, you're just kind of like doing some cheap trick to up the
Gimmick.
cost. Yeah, exactly.
I
right.
hate
Put
it.
some caviar on it or whatever the case might be to justify why you're charging 80, 90 kwai for 光餐老火, you know? So yes, you can go that route. You can play that game. You know, I mean, it is a game, right? You can charge put expensive ingredients, you know, double the price, right? But I don't know. I don't. If we were gonna do it, that, I don't know if we're gonna go the route of just
you are
like
not.
She's putting an end to this right now.
Yeah.
The end to this lunacy.
yeah, the words of wisdom, the voice of wisdom.
I just hate that people, like, especially at fine dining restaurants, we like dining out. Probably the only entertainment that we have would be dining out at different restaurants and good restaurants. I hate that fine dining restaurants or expensive restaurants are just putting expensive ingredients on top and other expensive ingredients so that they can charge us more without being creative or without just being, you know, sincere to your customers.
Yeah.
You just give me like a tub of caviar. What does it matter? I can just buy it on my own,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's like the lazy way out, because instead of actually putting work to figure out, okay, how do I make this science experiment that is food the greatest thing with the products I have? It's just like, well, I'm just going to use the best products and stack them on top of each other, and then here we go.
Absolutely.
So, okay, pivoting really quick. Again, you're the king of pivots, June. I got to ask you. Coming from your more scientific background, right? Because earlier on in the conversation, you were like, you just love kind of being in that more scientific field, whatever it is you're doing. What's your take on molecular gastronomy? Like, is that, you know, I find two schools of thought on that. I talk to people who just love it. I used to love it, but now I just feel like when I'm really hungry, I don't want this little science experiment on my plate. You know, I want to just bite into a good meaty burger with some good fries. I don't want.
You're already signaling.
Yeah, I don't want I don't want these little foams on there and these little like deconstructed things. Like, so what's your take on it?
Yeah, I would say I agree on you. I'm not into molecular gastronomy either. You know, I
Even
feel like,
coming from a science background like you.
yeah, I mean, you can use science to do certain things, but you don't have to deconstruct or change how a tomato should inherently taste. Right? I mean, like, you can use science to make sure that, okay, this sauce is going to stay, you know, it's going to be emulsified by the time you serve it instead of splitting, right?
Yeah.
So there's science in that sense where it helps you create something that's good and make it better, instead of, okay, changing the inherent structure of something into, you know, something that looks like a science experiment.
It's almost like doing it for the sake of doing it.
Exactly. And it does become gimmicky, you know. And so for me, I like when I taste an olive, I want to make sure it's an olive, right? Or if I taste the steak, I want to make sure it's beef. And so for me, like, I treat ingredient as how it should be treated, like it's in its natural, you know, natural way, right? I don't try to take it and transform it into something completely different, right? But I try to showcase it that this is, you know, the season for yang mei, and so we want to highlight yang mei in its best possible way. And then, yes, we can put some science behind it to highlight it, but we don't transform it in a way where it's totally unrecognizable. That's how I see it.
I want to make sure we get to a few things before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
So two things. First things first, though, I want to hear we've had a couple glasses already at this point. I want to hear what this story is about some bad employees that you guys had in the past. I haven't forgotten about that.
Let's loop back. Let's loop back a little
I haven't
bit.
forgotten about that. I want some gossip. I want some good gossip here.
Explain.
What, really? Okay.
Let's hear it, Priscilla.
Okay. We got sued by an employee who was yeah, it never happened to us actually in the past 5 years, and it recently happened to us just a month ago, like a little month,
This
less
is at
than a month.
Swirls,
Yeah, at Swirls
Wow,
when we
okay.
first started Swirls.
I'm gonna need to pour some more alcohol for you guys for
yes,
this
I
conversation.
know. We need that. So we were very surprised. We didn't start as early, but we started interviewing some people. It was a referral, and we thought that he was a good choice because we want to develop some long-term relationship with these people that we can use in long term. Some of the people we have been using have been with us for 5 years since Brut opened, or even at Amuse in Qingpu. So we have some long-term employment and relationships with people. We believe we're good people as well. And so we never said explicitly about, contracts and things like that because we were not open. And then we realized this referral was not a suitable candidate for us after working for us officially for 3 weeks, which is still within probation. And then we said okay, we would like to let you go. And then that same night, he sent me a message and say okay, you have to pay me extra money because we never signed a contract. But in terms of my understanding is okay, you have only been with us within a month and is still within probation, so I don't need to pay you extra. So he threatened us and said that I'm going to sue you. He wanted more. We offered him more, actually double of what he wanted as well. But he said that, no, I wanted more now. So eventually, out of principle, we decided that, okay, just let's go to court. It's out of principle. I don't want to let an brat go back to the society and just threaten another employer. It would cost me a little bit more money to hire a lawyer, but
For the greater good.
Yes, I'm gonna discipline
Teach him a
you, you
lesson.
little
Yes.
brat. So we decided to hire a lawyer, and eventually we just had to pay what he deserved, which was the hours, because he never was a full-time employee.
So
Yes,
it was
I
never
know.
anything near what he was asking for
No.
at
No.
the end of the day.
He was asking for triple what
Out
we
of
paid him.
principle, honestly.
I mean, I feel like a lot of this is I guess we're kind of naive in the sense that we trusted him. Even though we don't know him,
Because it was a referral.
Yeah, he was recommended by a very good friend or ex-employee of ours who's been with us for 4 years, and so he seemed like a nice guy, young kid, whatever. And but after a few weeks, he's just lazy. He didn't do anything, and so we obviously we didn't want to train him to be a store manager, so we just laid him off. But then again, we didn't know he would turn on us like that.
I think the part for us is that I was really hurt because we believe that we were very good people. We never had this incident in the past few years.
Yeah.
And I just thought why would this happen to us? What is happening to this world? But
I'm surprised stuff like this hasn't happened to you already. Right. Doing business in general.
Yeah, I know.
You're in hiring as many people as you would.
we
You're
usually
gonna get
sign
some
a
bad apples in
contract,
there.
I would say. So the process of opening Swirls was a little longer than expected. And then he just felt oh, you have interviewed me for a while already. I've been helping you at events. But he was not a full-time. He was just helping out occasionally, right?
Like for hire, just
Yeah,
temporary.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I guess it was just very painful to me personally because it's never happened to me. I grew up in a well-protected, I guess, environment.
An
as
elite
well.
environment. Yes.
The elite, the best of the best environments.
So at
The
girls
best, the superior environments.
and in the girls' schools too.
Yes,
So
the
there
best.
were only girls. There were no
The
jerks
most
or whatever
elite
too.
girls' school, period. The most elite.
Stop it. No, but
Yeah.
So it was very tough for me. And then June, I guess after all, I just realized that whoever that is,我很相信天意.
Yeah.
I think Tian, I'm not religious, we're not religious, but we're quite spiritual. So that's what we believe is that it's a lesson for us right now to not easily trust people because we're sometimes a little too innocent, a little too kind-hearted in a way. That you just have to be, more protective of yourself.
But you still have to keep that though. Don't let that go.
I know.
Don't let that go.
Yeah. So the question is, has this changed the way you go about your hiring process?
I would say we're more careful. Like what has to be done needs to be done. Like what we wanted to, of course, we knew that we were going to fire him. We could have really signed a contract before we fired him as well. We knew that, right? But we just felt like, okay, since he was a referral, we didn't want to have 斤斤计较的样子. Okay, so we just let it go, right? So now what has to be done has to be done.
Yeah, no cutting corners. It's just like just everything by the book.
Absolutely, right? 就是 business, after all, is business, right? You think that they are loyal to you. You just really don't know what would happen next.
No, you got to do everything by the book here.
I would
feel.
say so. Yeah, just to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just real quick before we finish, but like after we've gone across the history, how you guys met, how you got into F&B, and now after doing it for X amount of years, I mean, what have you gotten out of it? Like, what have you learned as a general ethos or way of moving forward? If you were to sum it up, like what?
Well, we learned not to open fine dining restaurants because they don't make money.
It's hard. It's very hard.
But no, F&B is a tough business.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it's not like you do like a tech startup, right? You hire, you fresh grads, highly educated people. But unfortunately, in F&B, people who work in F&B, they're not exactly that educated, So you work with people who are
more rough around the edges.
Exactly. So you have to deal with these kind of characters, these kind of people, and you have to train them. You have to have the patience to do that. And like we always say, like why are we still opening shops? Because it's not the best way of doing about it. And we've been smart about it. Like how do we shift from opening physical stores? Because physical stores takes a lot of cost, right, rent and whatnot, into something that's more that we can reach a broader public. Without being in this one physical location. And that's what we're trying to do with Swirls as well. Is like, instead of opening multiple locations, why not we do more online products? Like whether it's delivery or like products that we can ship nationwide.
Like delivering ice cream?
Yes.
Or like creating a brand behind the ice cream so you can distribute and do wholesale.
Ooh, you guys are fucking tricky. I like it.
Exactly. So
you need a
we're
physical shop.
shifting our thinking into like, okay, instead of being so local and just being like a small restaurant in this neighborhood, like how can we reach the masses, and having built the connection that we have in terms of like other F&B people, and as well as like central kitchens and things like that, and factories. Okay, how do we utilize all our resources and put them together and build some products that can reach a bigger mass? I guess that's our next step. Yeah.
Nice. Lastly, what would you say would be the pros and cons, and how has this affected the relationship between you two?
Yeah, we didn't even touch upon that. Like
Wow.
as a fucking married couple.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
working
Yeah.
together.
It is a big thing.
That's
That's
like
craziness.
2 hours kind of talk now.
It must have been a bumpy ride, right?
Oh,
Craziness.
absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely.
the
we had a
word
lot of arguments before.
the word divorce
sure.
came up many times.
Wow.
Because I'm from Hong Kong, right? It's like everything is like boom, boom, boom. You have to do it right now. I was a recruiter as well. Everything has to be done
And
now.
here's June from the casual LA surfer
Yes.
boy. Oh, it could be-
I am not kidding you. So back then I was working in Central,
Okay.
and then he was coming, for lunch with me, and then he was walking across the zebra crossing, and it's like 人人海中,
Yeah.
he was walking so slow. It's like slow-mo in the movie. I'm not kidding. You could really see him. He's not from here.
Oh, I don't like slow street crossers.
That's me.
But he was
It's
slow.
so entitled. The street is mine.
But I
I'll
guess
joke.
now we just know how to respect each other in a way that kitchen is his territory and the rest probably is mine. And then he has also learned how to share the burden as well, because he used to be so focused on creation, like just kitchen, that is just mine. And the rest, I'm not going to care about that. And now I have to let him understand that, hey, that's actually a lot outside of the kitchen. So who would be able to share that too?
And I feel like a lot of the biggest learning is respecting each other's ideas. You know, I feel like a lot of times before, you always feel like my idea is the best, right? And then that's where our biggest arguments come from. It's like, oh, I feel like this is going to work. And then she's like, no, this is going to work. Right. And that's where the biggest headaches come in. And then sometimes you kind of step back and say, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe this promotion will work. Or maybe this type of dish will work, you know, for this market and whatnot. And then, of course, the other way around. And I think having that respect for each other to kind of talk it out and say, and just really talk it out and say, like, okay, maybe you know more than I do in certain respect.
Wow.
Let the ego down a little bit. Yeah. It really is.
That's huge.
It looked like that was very tough for you to say based on your body language when you were telling that story. Like you struggled even telling us that.
But I did, all right? And so you can still, it's a work in progress.
No, I get it though. I get it because when you were saying that, the first thing that came to my mind was, you know, when you were saying like, okay, well, you have to be open to like maybe their idea is better.
Yeah.
From my experience, I'm gonna come off so horrible. Like, but But like, by the time I would give my idea, I would have thought it through already. Where I do already genuinely think my idea is better. Yeah. Like, even though, okay, I'll give you the I'll think about your idea. Okay, maybe it is better, but then more times than not, I just feel like, nope. No, my idea is still better. I was right. So how do you like, you know, resolve that?
But I guess if we brainstorm a lot together.
Well, that's communication, right? It's constant communication.
Absolutely.
Through every stage.
We like having a walk with our dog. Like every night we walk for an hour at least and then just like talk it out, right?
That's smart.
Yeah. I mean, just like when you're walking, your brain is actually having more blood flow as well. So you can think a lot clearer as well.
Well, and at the same time, for me at least, is like not making if let's say we go with her idea and at the end of the day it doesn't work out, like I don't give her shit for it.
I'm like, I told you so.
Exactly.
Rub it in.
Exactly.
Better man than I.
And I feel like that's very important. It's like, okay, obviously not every idea is going to be golden, right? I mean, and so you realize, okay, your idea didn't work. That's great. That's fine. You know, we learn from that. We move on. Let's see. What's the next best idea?
I think he's trying to remind me that I shouldn't do that.
Actually, you know, one of the things that you were just saying that I want to put an emphasis on. Yeah. This constant communication is really important because what you just said, Justin, was you said that, you know, you had come up with an idea, you've put your thought into it, so you believe that your idea is still better. Per se. One of the reasons why you feel that is because you let it incubate. And once you let it incubate, it grows, right? And it becomes stronger and stronger as a force. But then if an idea comes out and you just put it out, it hasn't incubated. It's not that strong. It's not that, like, you know,
everybody contributes.
It hasn't taken roots.
Yeah, it hasn't taken roots. So then you're able to, it's still malleable. It's still able to be able to grow. And,
exactly.
You know, I think that's what I got out of what you just said about constant communication, sharing the ideas during your walks and stuff like that, because then you don't know where it goes, right?
But honestly, I would say I have seen a lot of failed marriage because of partnerships as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work for you and you don't know how to do that, because honestly, within the restaurants or swirls, we have to understand that we are both bosses. We just have to respect each other. You know, there's not like I'm above him or he's above me. No, it's not like that, right? And so if you can't do that, just give it up, okay? Just let
even
one
with
of them.
swirls, we still argue. Like, I mean, like we haven't argued a lot before. Like with Brut, it's been pretty smooth, you know, after all these years. And now it's like we started swirls. I'm like, damn, you're such a bitch now.
And that is on record.
Yes, you're gonna sleep in the sleeping room tonight, okay?
You can stay here tonight, June. You can stay here tonight.
Thank you.
But like, no, you're right. You're right, Priscilla. Like marriages have failed for a lot less than what you guys have been going through.
Yeah.
So,
kudos, man.
Like, obviously, I feel like you guys would both agree this whole thing working together has brought you guys closer together.
Yeah, absolutely,
yes.
absolutely.
But you know, there's a balance, right? Like, it's common to say there's always a balance in any relationship of space, and typically when the husband and wife isn't working together, you know, they both have their jobs, so you know, and then they come together, and then you know they can be together, but like they have their space apart. Is there any space between you guys at all? Because it just feels like 24/7. You guys have to be together.
There is no space.
There is no space.
There really isn't.
And that doesn't bother you guys at all.
I guess it's the upbringing as well. I grew up in a very big family, and my father is a very strict father as well. I couldn't even lock my door of my room, or my bedroom when I was younger. There's no privacy whatsoever. It's like safety issue, whatever. I just didn't know that existed. And I would meet with my cousins and my aunts and my uncles every week.
It's just openness.
Yeah, it's just openness. So to me, I don't need a lot of my self-time. Like, I love my self-time. I can digest it at work or whatever. Say, for example, when we're working, he's in the kitchen, I'm outside, then it's enough. We'll still go out with friends. And that is the space that we have, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times when we go home, we don't talk so much about business.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we still do, but we know that, okay, you know, tonight's like dinner. Let's just put on a movie or whatever the case is, and let's not talk about anything else.
Do you make a concerted effort, like put down rules, like, okay, well, we're not gonna talk business over dinner, or we're not gonna talk business.
Exactly. You know, dinner's
No.
dinner. Yeah. I mean,
Is it naturally just?
Naturally,
it just naturally.
like that.
we don't set rules. I mean, but we know, like, okay, we're about to eat.
There's a poster on the wall.
Well, but maybe now, like, you guys are more established now. You guys maybe have, like, you know, a bigger team to help you do things. But I would assume in the early years where everything's just up in the air and chaotic and
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
and full of stress, like, it would be a 24/7
I can
conversation.
imagine.
Like, even guys, before you guys are in sleep in bed together, you guys would be probably talking business and brainstorming.
It is, and it was. I mean, I feel
That's
like
stressful.
but that was our life, you know. And it's kind of like when you raise a kid, like when you have a baby. I mean, you can't just have a time off from your baby, you know. That is 24/7, and I feel like because we started a business, that is our baby. You know, we got to do this. We got to put all our effort into it. It doesn't matter if we're on the toilet, in the shower, eating dinner, right? Whatever problem that occurs, we got to talk about it, right?
Like, you guys are going to find a way to make this work. Like,
Exactly.
it's working.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what time of day or what activity we're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I guess that was the difference, is like, we didn't say like, oh, let's just take that time off. But like, okay, if an idea pops up, let's just talk. You know, if something comes up, let's just talk. You know, we didn't put it off into some other better time. You know.
Wow.
I think what I just realized is that we both didn't mind that. We
Yeah.
didn't mind talking about it anytime when something just comes up in our mind and just talk about it. I think some people would mind, like, hey, why don't we just not talk about it right now at dinner? Or why don't we just not talk about it, you know, when we're having a walk? Is this our relaxed time? I guess we care so much about our business equally in a way that we just are so dedicated to it, and we would be able to just talk about it and let it grow anytime we want to.
That's
Yeah,
compatibility.
Yeah,
right
you guys
there.
are super compatible.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't see it as a burden. I guess
Yeah.
that's the difference. You know, sometimes you see
absolutely,
it
yeah.
like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like we need to talk about this as if it's like bothering you. But if this is your life and this is what you strive to do and make it happen, then it's not a burden.
Wow.
You were
it's-
both on the same mission, and you
yeah,
felt
exactly.
like equal responsibility over it.
Exactly.
I feel like after hearing that and just knowing what you guys went through, I mean, to me, I feel like you guys can go through anything. Cause honestly, because I think about this sometimes, because I'm married as well. I mean, Justin as well. And I've had conversations with my wife about, you know, what if she were and I were to do something together, whether in my field or something new, you know, because we have very different personalities, so we'd be able to balance each other out. But then we'd always come back like, yeah, but should we really work together? You know? Like, you know,
I already know my answer. Because me and my wife, we argue over so much less, so much lower stakes than doing an F&B business together. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much lower stakes, and we still argue. So I already know my
Put your
answer.
socks back in the laundry
Exactly.
bag.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's cool. It's really inspiring today.
Yeah.
I'm really inspired right now, actually.
Well,
Thank
one last thought I want to just verify. Earlier in the conversation, you said that when you guys were first starting Brut, you guys were sleeping in the attic of the restaurant?
Oh, no, no, no.
Oh, we weren't sleeping in the attic, but like there's a space above the kitchen, like a storage space, and so it's enough to fit like it's
a human
A
body.
human body in there.
He was very sick and he was having a fever.
Oh, what?
Yes, he was literally having a fever. We were so busy. We were also short-handed. And he would literally just sleep there for 2 hours and come back down to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, cheers to June and Priscilla.
Wow.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Amazing
you guys.
people. Like honestly.
It was a very inspiring conversation. Oh god, this is
Well,
good
thank you
stuff.
for the whiskey, though.
How's that? This is pretty good. This one, right?
Amazing.
Really
Yes.
good, right?
This is
Did you
delicious.
like the first one or the second one more?
I actually prefer the first one.
Yeah.
I love the spice.
Hell yeah. Okay. June's my guy.
You got some things in common over here.
Yeah.
No salads.
No salads, exactly.
Fuck salads. June, Priscilla, thank you so much for coming on this show. It was
Yeah,
such
man.
a blast having you guys on.
Yeah.
Good luck on all your future endeavors and the success of Brut, Swirls, and anything you guys are working on next. Thank you guys.
And let us know when
Yeah.
you're doing something new. You're welcome anytime back.
Yeah, please.
you.
We have
Awesome.
return guests all the time. Come back anytime you guys want, or just have a drink.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. We had
It's
a
been
blast.
so much fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be good, be well. I'm Justin.
And I'm Howie.
That was June and Priscilla from Brut and Swirls. Check it out. This is The Honest Drink. Be good, be well. Bye-bye. Peace.